I stood silently in the dim hallway of Sunset Grove Nursing Home, the overhead lights casting long shadows on the scuffed linoleum floor. My daughter Sarah's designer heels echoed sharply as she walked away without so much as a backward glance. In my trembling hands, I clutched the manila envelope filled with admission paperwork. My new reality. "She's just too much of a burden now," I had overheard Sarah saying to the administrator earlier. "After Dad lost everything in the crash, she has nothing left. This is the best we can do. The best we can do." The words stung with bitter irony. This from the daughter I had raised with every advantage. Private school, Harvard Law, her first home down payment. I had given her everything. The room they assigned me was small, spare, and aging. Peeling wallpaper, a drafty window, a narrow bed. A far cry from the estate James and I once called home. But I wasn't surprised. I had seen this day coming. In fact, I had planned for it. "Mrs. Anderson." A soft voice interrupted my thoughts. Nancy, one of the kinder nurses, smiled gently. "Would you like help unpacking?" I returned the smile faintly and clutched my single suitcase. "No, thank you, dear. I'll manage." As soon as she left, I reached into my bag and pulled out my old flip phone, the same one Sarah had laughed at last Christmas, calling it a dinosaur, before gifting me a smartphone I never touched. I dialed a familiar number. "Martin." "It's Eleanor Anderson," I said quietly. "Yes, they did exactly as we expected. It's time." Martin had been our family attorney for over 4 decades. One of the few who knew the truth, the real truth about the Anderson fortune. "The safe?" he asked. "Yes. Open it tomorrow." Just like we planned. I could almost hear the smile in his voice. "With pleasure, Eleanor. I've been looking forward to this day." After I hung up, I sat down on the thin mattress and retrieved a worn photo from my wallet. James and me, young and proud, standing in front of our very first investment property. That was before the tech boom, before James' innovations reshaped the industry, before we quietly became one of the state's wealthiest families. Sarah never knew the full extent of it. We had deliberately raised her to value hard work, to earn her success. But somewhere along the way, she absorbed the wrong lessons. As she climbed the corporate ladder, she began to see our quiet lifestyle as something shameful, even foolish. When James passed last year, I let her believe the market crash had wiped us out. I let her assume I had nothing left. Slowly, her visits grew shorter, her tone more patronizing. "You really should have invested smarter, Mom," she told me just last week. "Now look where you've ended up." If only she knew. The safe in James' old study held the true story. Documents detailing holdings in tech firms across continents, a real estate empire, patents still earning millions. Offshore accounts, shell companies, everything intact. But the most important document was the one I had signed a year ago. The final directive. The Anderson fortune, $4.8 billion, was being donated entirely to educational charities serving underprivileged children. All except for a small trust, set aside for any grandchildren Sarah might have. Because even after everything, I still had hope for the next generation. As the sun dipped low outside my drafty window, I picked up a pen and began to write. "Dear Sarah." Down the hall, I could hear the sounds of other residents laughing and chatting. This wasn't the punishment Sarah thought she had sentenced me to. This was peace. Simpler life. One I chose. And tomorrow everything would change. The next morning, right on cue, my phone buzzed relentlessly. Missed calls. Messages. Reporters. Sarah's name flashing across the screen again and again. But it was Martin's message that made me smile. Safe opened. Documents revealed. It is here. Quite a show. I could picture it perfectly. Sarah in one of her sleek power suits, standing frozen in James' study as Martin opened the hidden safe. Watching her expression as she read the truth about the fortune she believed had vanished. First, the portfolio of international tech holdings. Then the bank statements. Then, my personal favorite, the notarized letter outlining the full donation. When the phone rang again, I answered. "How could you do this to me?" Sarah's voice was shrill, nearly unrecognizable. $4 billion. You're giving away $4 billion. I held the phone to my ear, calm as ever, and looked out the window. I gave you everything that mattered, Sarah, I said gently. You just didn't see it. 4.8 actually, I corrected calmly. The market's been quite kind lately. But I'm your daughter. Your only child, Sarah stammered. You can't just give everything away. Actually I can, I said, my voice firm but calm. Your father and I earned every penny of it. We're free to decide how it's used. You let me believe you were poor, she cried. You let me think. I let you show me who you really are, I interrupted. And you did that quite clearly yesterday. The line went silent. I could hear her breathing, no doubt trying to compose herself, just like she would in court before delivering a winning argument. Mom, she said at last, her voice suddenly sweet, almost syrupy. We can fix this. I'm sure the paperwork isn't final. I'll come pick you up right now. You can stay in our guest house. The same guest house you said was too good for me yesterday? Asked softly. No, thank you, dear. I'm quite comfortable where I am. Comfortable. It's a dump. I only put you there because you thought I was worth nothing without money, I finished for her. That's the problem, Sarah. That's always been the problem. Took a breath. Every cent of that money is going to children who understand the true value of education, hard work, and opportunity. Far better than you ever did. There was a sharp sound through the line. Papers thrown, perhaps a chair pushed back. The press is already calling, she snapped. Do you know how this looks? My own mother in a cheap nursing home while giving away billions. It makes you look exactly like who you are, I said simply. And maybe that's the best lesson I could have given you. I'll contest it, she snapped. I'll hire the best lawyers. You can try, I replied, unbothered. But your father and I had 40 years to make this airtight. Martin made sure of that. The only money you'll ever see is the trust fund, for any future children. And even that comes with conditions I suspect you won't like. Character, education, compassion. There was another long silence. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, smaller, almost like the little girl who used to run to me with skinned knees and broken toys. Mom. Sorry. I didn't mean to. I was just frustrated. No, Sarah, I said gently. You meant every word, every action. And that's okay. Because it showed me exactly where this money should go, to people who understand its true value. What am I supposed to do now? She whispered. That's up to you, I replied. You can keep being the person who abandoned her mother at a nursing home. Or become someone better. The choice was always yours. I ended the call and turned toward the window. In the garden below, I watched a pair of elderly residents walk hand in hand, others being wheeled gently by kind nurses. I had already spoken to the administrator about a quiet, anonymous donation, enough to upgrade beds, refresh common rooms, and plant a real garden. Not enough to make it luxurious. Just enough to make it dignified. Sarah might eventually learn that money isn't everything. Or she wouldn't. Either way, I had done what I should have done years ago. Made the consequences match the character. My phone buzzed again. Martin. Face too ready when you are. Smiled. Sarah had no idea. This was just the beginning. 3 months passed at Sunset Grove, and life settled into a rhythm I hadn't expected to enjoy. The renovations had begun quietly. A few new beds here, fresh paint there, better food, brighter lighting. A warmth returned to the place. No one knew I was behind the changes. I preferred it that way. Sarah had tried everything. Legal threats, press interviews, dramatic gestures of reconciliation. But each attempt only exposed more of who she truly was. When a reporter asked her why she had abandoned her billionaire mother in a shabby nursing home, her awkward explanations only fueled the headlines. And then came the day of the first scholarship announcements. 5,000 underprivileged students. That's how many would receive full-ride scholarships to college, tuition, living expenses, and a dedicated mentorship program. They called it the Anderson Education Initiative. Martin had arranged the launch ceremony in the city's largest auditorium. I watched the live stream from my room at Sunset Grove, a warm smile spreading across my face as student after student took the stage. Tearful, beaming, grateful. Each one shared a story of perseverance, of beating impossible odds, of holding on to education as a lifeline. These were the kinds of people James and I once were. Hungry for knowledge, desperate for a chance, and willing to work for it. My phone buzzed. Sarah. Her name appeared again, but this time the message was different. I saw the ceremony. Finally understand. Can we talk? I invited her to Sunset Grove the next day. When she arrived, I was already waiting in the garden. She wasn't wearing a sleek blazer or designer heels this time. Just jeans and a soft sweater. She looked more like the daughter I remembered, before the ambition and arrogance took over. You look different, I said gently as she sat beside me. I feel different, she replied, eyes scanning the garden. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Watching those students yesterday. It reminded me of the stories you used to tell. About you and Dad. How you started with nothing. I nodded, listening. I forgot all of that, she continued. I got so caught up in proving myself. Status, prestige, being the successful daughter of supposedly failed parents. I became everything you and Dad tried to protect me from. Recognition is the first step, I said softly. She looked down. I've started volunteering at a local education center, teaching basic law to high school students. Actually fulfilling. More than corporate law ever was. For the first time in months, I saw a glimmer of the young woman James and I had raised. The spark of humility, of purpose. Your father would be proud to hear that, I said. She looked at me, her voice thick with emotion. I'm sorry, Ma. Not just for the nursing home. For everything before that. For becoming someone you had to teach a lesson to. I reached over and took her hand. The lesson was never about punishment, Sarah. It was about legacy. Your father and I didn't build a fortune so you could inherit privilege. We built it to make a difference. She nodded, blinking back tears. I get that now. And I want to help. Not for the money. I know that's gone and I'm okay with that. But maybe I could work with a foundation. Use my legal background to help expand the scholarships. Build more programs. I smiled and pulled out an envelope I had been saving for this very moment. Martin helped me draw up some paperwork. If you're serious, there's a position waiting for you. Director of Legal Advocacy, Anderson Education Initiative. But it comes with conditions. She raised an eyebrow. What kind of conditions? You'll work directly with students. You'll live on a modest salary. No perks, no special treatment. Just the work. Think you can handle that? She gave my hand a gentle squeeze. I'd like to try. That evening after she left, I called Martin. Phase 3. Are you sure? He asked. The change seems real. But it's still early. James always believed in second chances, I said. Let's see what she does with hers. The next day, we established a small trust in Sarah's name. Not enough to make her wealthy, but enough to support meaningful work. The conditions were strict. Every dollar had to be used for education advocacy or community development. It wasn't a gift. It was a challenge. As I sat in the garden watching the sun dip low beyond the trees, I thought about what legacy really meant. Not the billions we gave away, but the lessons we passed on. Sarah was learning. The scholarship recipients were thriving. And somewhere I knew James was smiling. My simple room at Sunset Grove didn't feel like punishment anymore. Felt like purpose. Like the place I was always meant to be. Watching good things grow from the seeds we planted. One student. One lesson. One life at a time. And Sarah. She was finally becoming the daughter we always hoped she'd be.